All right, polls closed in 6 states as candidates power through the primaries to get on the ballot for November. And we know how some of those elections ended up in those primaries. A race for the late South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham's seat is headed for a runoff later this month. CBS News projects Graham's sister, Darline Graham, will face Congressman Ralph Norman. The GOP winner will face Democrat Dr. Annie Andrews this November.
I'm usually standing here celebrating with Lindsey. So I know he's looking down right now, smiling though.
I really feel like that South Carolina and the country's at a tipping point. I really trust the people of South Carolina to make the right call.
Meanwhile, over in Wisconsin, CBS News projects Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley will be the Democratic nominee for governor. He narrowly defeated Democratic Socialist Francesca Hong in a nail-biter. Crowley will face GOP Congressman Tom Tiffany in November. And in Minnesota's open Senate seat, CBS News projects the state's Democratic Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan will face Republican sports broadcaster Michelle Tafoya. It is the latest victory for a progressive over the party's more moderate wing. The North Star State, by the way, has not had a Republican U.S. Senator since 2009. So let us bring in CBS News correspondent Jonah Kaplan, who's in Wayzata, Minnesota. Jonah, let's talk about the race for that seat. Explain to our viewers what is happening in Minnesota as it tips towards perhaps Flanagan's progressiveness, or could this be a flip for the Republicans, which would be a big deal because it would be the first time in 17 years?
You know, Vlad, we've talked about a proxy war, right, for Democrats, about the more progressive, the more moderate wing. What you're now going to see in this Senate race is a proxy battle between the fight against fraud and that crisis in Minnesota and the blowback from the Trump administration's immigration crackdown. And what is the priority for Minnesotans? Are they more angry at the Democratic leadership and allowing a fraud to happen during COVID? Or are they more angry at the Trump administration for potentially overplaying its hand? And who do they hold responsible for the crisis that we all experienced here in the upper Midwest? And it's really going to be fascinating because it gives voters a very clear choice. And a lot of the issues that have been dividing Americans, they really hit home here in Minnesota. Yes, immigration and the fraud and the economy because of tariffs in Canada, but also the Iran war. One of the first casualties in the war was a soldier from Minnesota, Master Sergeant Nicole Amer from White Bear Lake.
You know, and Jonah, let's talk about the governor's race. The state is set to make history with the first ever female governor. That's after Lisa DeMuth defeated My Pillow founder Michael Lindell. What's happening with the governor's race that you're watching?
Yeah, that's another big one. This is going to be a female-dominated midterm election in Minnesota. Amy Klobuchar, the longtime senator who has very wide appeal here in Minnesota, is going to be the Democrat running for governor. And Lisa DeMuth, who is the House Speaker, Republican, going up against Amy. And look, this again is going to be a referendum on Democratic leadership on the fraud crisis. We're talking about more than $1 billion, according to federal prosecutors, stolen from taxpayers in all those social services, 14 different categories of social services during the COVID era. Already about 100 people have been charged. 60 or 70 of them have been convicted. We've done a lot of reporting on that. And it's a big deal that the President Trump's endorsed candidate, preferred candidate and friend, Mike Lindell, lost out to Lisa DeMuth.
So let me ask you about this too, Jonah. The DOJ sent election monitors to Minnesota. What was the purpose of that, and what happened?
Yeah, that was quite an announcement yesterday, Vlad. We brought it up. It came just as we were talking yesterday at this time. The DOJ announcing that they were sending about 24 election monitors to watch out for fraud, especially when it came to maybe immigrants or non-citizens voting. Really, haven't heard of any issues. It might have been more semantics, it might have been more of a threat, but in a state like Minnesota, where we've had federal agents, a lot of them come in before, this was obviously very triggering, but no real tangible issues on the ground.
All right, Jonah Kaplan, thank you so much for all those details.